Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Like you mentioned, my name is Vina Day to me, and it is a true honor to stand before you today at this inaugural edition of Africa's Thought Leadership Series. We are graced with the presence of esteemed dignitaries, national leaders, and trailblazers whose contributions continue to shape our societies at large. I acknowledge and appreciate each and every one of you. I now have the privilege to introduce our chairperson for today's event. She's a woman whose academic journey and leadership have left an indelible mark, both locally and internationally. Professor Georgina Yaa Oduro is an associate professor who has served as head of Ogwa Hall at the University of Cape Coast, and there she was the hall warden responsible for the welfare and needs of over 1,300 students. She currently is the associate professor and head of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology in the University of Cape Coast, Ghana, and the immediate past director of the Center for Gender Research, Advocacy, and Documentation. Her academic path spans institutions such as the University of Ghana, where she attained her first degree in sociology and political science, her master's degree from the University of Westminster, and PhD from the University of Cambridge in the UK, as well as a postgraduate degree in the University of Cape Coast here in Ghana. Her research interests includes gender-based violence, sexuality, youth cultures, marginalized populations, women's health, popular culture, and more recently, the blue economy and creative industries. Professor Oduro is a recipient of prestigious fellowships, including the Tamika Fellowship in the International Health from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and the Martha Farrell Fellowship in Gender Equality with the Association of Commonwealth Universities. She also received the Mashav Fellowship administered by the Israel Foreign Affairs. Professor Oduro leads the Ghanaian team on a MasterCard Foundation-funded project exploring gender and youth in Africa's creative industry. She also collaborates globally on research into women in transnational trade. She has spoken on international platforms, including the University of Salerno in Italy and Laval University in Canada, and serves on numerous boards and committees. The International Center for Research on Women describes her as a sociologist, a powerhouse researcher, and advocates for gender equity who wears many academic hats and flair. From a lecturer to a researcher to an administrator to a mother to a wife to an examiner to an activist with a wide-ranging impact. So ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon, help me welcome the chairperson for this event, Professor Georgina Yaa Oduro. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Genuinely, as I sat and I was listening, I was wondering, whom is all this being said about? Vina, where did you get all that stuff from? I think you did very well then. You really added a lot. Thank you very much once again. Our very special invited guest. I don't want to commit suicide by mentioning because I may end up leaving some. So our very special invited guests, our panelists, our speakers, our young people, our nananom, our mothers, our aunties, our everything, our fathers, we are not leaving you out. And our executive director as well of Africa and everyone. It is with deep pride and great honor that I accept the offer to chair this afternoon's function. It is timely, it is important, it is groundbreaking event because it is the first. And I also recognize our participants virtually, those online, please, if I've left you out. It is timely because of when we are having it and the fact that it is Pan-Africanist. It is not, located just within Ghana. It's all about Africa, so it is very, very important. I thank the Executive Director of Africa for the opportunity to chair this maiden edition. I consider our gathering today not as a platform for mere exchange of ideas, but rather one that offers us the opportunity to ignite a powerful reimagining of leadership rooted in our cultural identity, our traditions, and our unshakable belief in leadership potential of African women. This maiden edition of the Africa Thought Leadership Series opens doors for us to explore the rich heritage of indigenous leadership and its potential to inform and transform women's leadership development in Ghana. As a researcher and lecturer in sociology with interest in gender issues, I identify myself very well with the theme, Indigenous Leadership, Implications for Rethinking Women Leadership Development. The issue is, we are women, and in sociology, we say that we are the agents of socialization because we nurture the children when they are born. So we handle the home. And yet, when it comes to leadership, we are relegated to the background because it's seen that because of patriarchal constructions, we are seen that we are not supposed to be in the forefront. And sometimes, as head of my department currently, which has 20 faculty, made up of 18 men, and there are just 2 women. And I recall one meeting when a master's student, I had not thought about the situation, but then we were in the boardroom, and then we had the men lined up here, and they were lined up here also, and I was sitting at the end, so like the table head. I was there. Then this master's student just took a picture, and she said the matriarch of the department. So when it comes to leadership, yes, women, we have a role. There is no doubt that indigenous leadership offers valuable insights into the ways in which women can be empowered to take on leadership roles. By examining the traditional leadership structures and practices of Ghana's indigenous communities, we can identify key lessons that can be applied to modern leadership potentials. The issue is we are looking at indigenous women or leadership today. And if you look at our traditional system, the accounts of Ghana, for example, and if you consider a matriarchal system and the role of leaders like Yaa Asantewaa and co, we've been leaders before. We've occupied this position. So what really happened? There is a course I teach, Gender Before and Post-Colonial Ghana. And in that course, it is argued that prior to colonization, women were comparatively empowered, actually. But then with the colonization and the package that came with it, Western education, Western religion, the man as the head of the family, and all that, gradually women were relegated. And then we come back to empowerment, where now we have to go out and advocate and give women back their position. So if we consider that, then this talk is really timely to help our young ones to appreciate the role of women. The women of Dahomey, the woman king, if you watch that film, you appreciate it. We are often seen to be soft and, for that matter, relegated to the background. There is a course I teach, Introduction to Gender Studies. Sorry that my lectureship lens is coming in here. I've virtually put away my... And then when I go into the lecture theater for the first time, I ask students, if you have to come into the next world, would you want to continue being a man or a woman? And what are your reasons for this? And it's interesting, some of the, the views that most people would want to, the ladies, they would want to come into the next world as men. Because in their thinking, men have more power, men have more respect, men are recognized. You get into there's a board I'm chairing, and they are all men. And the highly educated now appreciate that women can be leaders. But sometimes those below, they just enter and they assume that because I'm the woman, I cannot be the chair. So they will be looking for the chair to approach. So yes, that is our situation. For too long, leadership paradigms imposed from outside our continent have overshadowed the rich, sophisticated, and inclusive leadership models that have long existed within our indigenous systems. From the queen mothers of the Ashanti to the women warriors of Dahomey, Africa, has never lacked powerful women leaders What we have lacked is an intentional structure to recognize, to document, and to scale their impacts. As we await the presentations by our very renowned distinguished speakers, but also our panelists, which we think is going to ignite, thought. It's supposed to be thought-provoking. We don't want it to be the normal thing. Someone said, not the normal business. Today is the maiden edition. We're going to spark discussions and then thoughts so that we'll go out of this room with something else. So as we await the presentations by the distinguished speakers lined up on the program, let us celebrate the many Ghanaian women who continue to shape sectors. At least, we are always happy talking about our vice president as the first. Yes, in the midst of all, she's a trailblazer. When she mounted the scene as the first female vice chancellor of a public university in Ghana, we celebrated her. And that, to me, was an entry point, because after that, lot and lot of women have become vice chancellors. Legon boast, someone was joking, said that a girls' school, because the registrar was a lady, the vice chancellor was a lady, the director for finance was a lady, the chair was a lady, and everything. So gradually, we are making inroads, but doesn't mean that we are there yet. So this afternoon, we're going to challenge ourselves as we celebrate those who have achieved, and then what can we do, especially for our young ones. So we are happy to have our students with us this afternoon because, with social media and then with globalization, we are also losing out sometimes. And people think that it's all about the Western world. As a sociologist, I'm not too happy when I see mothers raising their children in a foreign language. Because where lies our language? Where lies our identity? We are giving them local names, yes. But what about the language, the lingua franca that they need to appreciate and then speak in, And sometimes the person is not highly educated. Yes, this person is raising the child in English, so the grammar and everything is messed up. That is where we find ourselves. So we are happy to have our young ones to appreciate that we've ever had very powerful women leaders, and we can learn from them and do something across the continents. It's not just a Ghanaian situation. We have Nananum coming. So we have African women who are redefining leadership from Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of the World Trade Organization to Chimamanda on global platforms. These are all because we're talking about Africa. We are not talking just about Ghana. Indeed, the voices of women are raising not just in imitation, but also in authenticity. So the indigenousness is very, very important, and it's something that we would want to look at and then recognize. For me, today's event is not just about adding women to outdated leadership tables. It is about redesigning the table itself. It is about centering indigenous knowledge, embracing community-driven leadership, and nurturing future generations in ways that reflect who we are, particularly in terms of leadership provided by women. To conclude, I once again want to reiterate that I've accepted the chairperson's role given to me this afternoon. And I appreciate the organizers, particularly Dr. Dahomey, for the opportunity to be part of this gathering. I welcome all of you in our midst. Nananom, we appreciate, we are happy to have you in our midst this afternoon. Together, let us learn. Our panelists challenge us, and let us move out of this space with something, a food for thought. Thank you very much for the opportunity.